In my previous life, I stopped Jiang Heng from going to the brothel. Later, he successfully inherited the title, but missed out on his beloved courtesan. For this, he resented me for a lifetime. His beloved also tortured me to death. After rebirth, the first thing I did was to send him to the courtesan's flower boat. I'd like to see, without the glory of the Marquise's mansion, how long the love between this lifetime's Jiang Heng and that courtesan can last. Jiang Heng, the legitimate son of the Marquise's mansion, went on a boat trip with a courtesan during the mourning period for the old Marquis, was reported by someone, and was caught red-handed. The current emperor values filial piety and fraternal duty the most, and was furious upon hearing of it. Not only did he strip Jiang Heng of his qualification to inherit the title, he also revoked his scholarly honor and official rank, and forbade him from ever taking the imperial examinations or entering official service again. The once proud and successful young Marquis became a commoner overnight, with nothing to his name. Someone asked Jiang Heng if he regretted ending up in such a state for a mere courtesan. He straightened his back and declared that for Yuzhu, he could give up not just his title and official rank, but even the empire. Yuzhu is that courtesan's name. For a time, young Master Jiang's choosing beauty over the empire became a romantic tale. It is just that when people in the streets talked about it, it was always with a hint of mockery and ridicule. This romantic affair was a disaster for Jiang Heng, but a blessing for Yuzhu. She was already famous in the capital for her stunning beauty, and with this, her value skyrocketed. Loads of high Jan-ranking officials and nobles threw fortunes around just to get a glimpse of the beauty. After all, everyone was curious what kind of peerlessly beautiful woman could make Jiang Heng give up everything. Everyone was talking about Jiang Heng and Yuzhu, and finally, someone also thought of the other one and started talking about the third person in the story. So what is going to happen to that girl from the Shu family? She has no father or mother. The old Marquis raised her and arranged a marriage for her with Jiang Heng. She has no parents, not even someone who can make the decision to call off the engagement for her. What a pity. A perfectly good young lady from an official's family has to marry that commoner, Jiang Heng. Who knows, she might even have to share a husband with a brothel woman. The young lady of the Shu family is me. Jiang Heng was held down in the ancestral hall by the Jiang family elders and whipped. The old matriarch of the Marquise's residence, the Marquise's widowed mother, pulled me into her private chamber to talk. In fact, I was kneeling to admit my mistake. She looked at me with bitter disappointment. "Oh, Wen Yun, I've always taken you for a clever and well-behaved child. How could you let Hanger out of the manor gates? How could you not know the stakes in this matter?" I prostrated myself and wept. Grandmother, brother Aheng's temperament. When he is dead set on doing something, how could I possibly stop him? 1,000 wrongs. 10,000 wrongs. It is all my fault. I only beg you, grandmother, to please not ruin your health out of anger. She was so angry she hit me on the back with her cane. You couldn't stop him. You had to stop him, even if you had to give up your worthless life. The Marquise's manor has raised you all these years for nothing. Now that Hanger can't inherit the title, what do you expect the Marquise's manor to do? Jiang Heng is her life, the apple of her eye. And as for me, I'm just a worthless life. That is all. She got tired from hitting, threw the cane down heavily, and called for someone to help her to the ancestral hall to see Jiang Heng. I wiped my tears, and the guilt and fear I had faked were swept away completely. Every time she hit me, I had an urge to tell her that her precious grandson was a good nothing, and that even if I stopped Jiang Heng, the Marquise's mansion would fall into decline anyway. Because in my past life, I had stopped him, and I succeeded. I was raised by the old Marquis. My father was once the old Marquise's adjutant. The year I was 8, during a rebellion, both my parents died saving the old Marquis. The old Marquis, grateful for his life being saved, and also pitying me for losing my parents at a young age, raised me by his side, and also arranged for me and Jiang Heng to be engaged. Although Jiang Heng was the legitimate son, his birth mother passed away early, so the old Marquis felt indebted to him and was exceptionally good to him. He also proved his worth, passing the imperial exam to become an official at a young age, without relying on the family's patronage. The Marquis placed high hopes in him. He came from a good family and was also talented, so he was arrogant about his talent and thought very highly of himself. Relying on the old Marquis's indulgence, he became incredibly audacious and did as he pleased. But since the He mansion is willing to indulge him, an orphan like me who depends on them can't say a thing. Otherwise, I'll inevitably make people feel I'm ungrateful and sowing discord. Life is hard when you live at the mercy of others. Once, by chance, I bumped into Jiang Heng's personal attendant meeting with someone in private. I eavesdropped a couple of sentences, and only then did I realize that he was entangled with the top courtesan Yu Ju. And at that time, everyone in the capital knew that he and I were engaged to be married after the new year. And Yu Ju wasn't actually in love with Jiang Heng either. She had already agreed to let the only son of the left prime minister buy her freedom. She was just leading one on while stringing the other along. Insatiably greedy in my previous life. On the third day after the Marquis passed away, Yu Ju invited Jiang Heng for a boat ride on the lake. He completely ignored that the Marquise's body was barely cold and insisted on going to the appointment. But her action was just a bet with her sisters, a bet that Jiang Heng was just her dog who would come whenever she called. Even during the old Marquise's mourning period, I was grateful for the old Marquise's kindness in raising me, and I cherished my childhood bond with Jiang Heng. More importantly, as an orphan, my future was tied to the He mansion. If Jiang Heng were to be exposed for his moral failings and couldn't inherit the title, dragging down the reputation and future of the He mansion, my life wouldn't be any better. Due to all these factors, I tried everything I could to stop him. He was confined to the mansion. A few days later, Yu Ju's freedom was bought by the left prime minister's only son. She wrote a letter to Jiang Heng, saying she waited for him to save her from the left chancellor's only son that day, but he never came. As a weak woman, she couldn't fight against the chancellor's mansion's power and had no choice but to comply. The lie was clumsy, but Jiang Heng believed it and has hated me ever since. He hated me, yet he still married me. He said he wanted to watch me suffer day by day. I have no father or mother. I was raised by the Marquise's mansion. He wanted to marry me, and I had no room to even resist. During the 3 years of torment, even when I requested a divorce, he never granted it. The old matriarch also loathed me, fanning the flames both openly and secretly, wishing she could torture me to death sooner, so she could marry a woman of noble birth into the family and torment her to death under the guise of teaching etiquette. Jiang Heng successfully inherited the title and became a court official. He didn't think about serving the country and its people, only about taking back Yu Ju. For this, he framed the left chancellor, causing the left chancellor's entire family to be either beheaded or exiled. Many people in the court were already dissatisfied with him for being an incompetent official who used his power for personal gain. And some were even determined to get justice for the left chancellor. He became the target of public criticism, and his colleagues rose up to attack him. He desperately protected Yu Ju, this family member of a condemned official, not hesitating to lose his official position for her. From then on, the Marquise's mansion went downhill. Yu Ju stayed in the mansion openly and justifiably. Although she had no title or status, the servants knew how to read the situation and see which way the wind was blowing. My already difficult life became even more precarious. Yu Ju's methods for tormenting people were even more vicious compared to Jiang Heng's. To make me give up my position as the head wife, she first framed me for adultery, then ordered people to strip off my clothes, leaving me to freeze to death in utter humiliation in the snow. And at that time, Jiang Heng was just watching from the side. He watched me die, and yet he said, "This is what I deserve. Xu Wenjin, this is all you deserve. Your intentions are truly malicious. If you hadn't stopped me back then, Yu Ju and I wouldn't have had to miss so many years. But for all your scheming, you never foresaw that even without Yu Ju, I would never love you." To this day, when I think of the past, I still wish I could kill him. If heaven hadn't taken pity on me and let me live again, I'm afraid I couldn't have rested in peace even after going to the underworld. So in this life, I didn't stop him. Not only that, I even covered for him, ensuring he left the mansion without a hitch and boarded Yuju's flower boat. The young marquis chose a beauty over the kingdom, gave up his title to save a courtesan, and ultimately won her hand, becoming a celebrated tale that everyone envied. This new story, I hope he likes it. I hope he finds this romance to be tumultuous and captivating enough. I'd like to see if he can't inherit the title or even becomes a commoner. For how many days he can keep up this act of a devoted lover. Zhang Heng was knocked unconscious in the ancestral hall. He was pampered growing up, and this was the very first time he received the family punishment. His delicate body couldn't take the beating. After crying out "Ayo Ayo" for just a few times, he fainted. But at this critical juncture, he had to be severely punished in order to prove that this was his fault alone, and not that the Marquise's mansion had improper family conduct. The old dowager had always doted on him the most. After the round of caning was over, she herself fell ill from heartache first. The palace bestowed nourishing supplements to show favor. The old dowager was too sick to get up. Grabbing the sleeve of the messenger eunuch, she asked, "I beg you, give me a little hint. Hanger can no longer inherit the title, so who will? Does His Majesty have a preferred candidate in mind?" The eunuch didn't give a definite answer, just said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. This was never a hereditary title to be passed down indefinitely. Whether it can be passed down or not, isn't that just a matter of a single word from the emperor? The implication was that the emperor might suppress the matter and not allow the title to be inherited. The Marquise's mansion has been passed down for over 100 years, and the whole big family, whether from the direct line or collateral branches, all rely on the glory of the Marquise's mansion to make a living. Now, the Marquis has recently passed away. The legitimate son has offended His Majesty. The old dowager is bedridden with a lingering illness, and the emperor is still suppressing the inheritance of the title. The vast Marquise's mansion seemed to overnight show signs of decline, like a great mansion on the verge of collapse. An atmosphere of unease spread quickly. Everyone was panicking, trying every possible way to find a connection. At midnight, the old dowager slowly woke up and pulled me over to talk. A complete change from her previous stern and cold demeanor, becoming kind and benevolent. "Wen Yun, Hanger has done a foolish thing, but don't you dislike him because of it? You were originally scheduled to marry after the new year. But now that the Marquise has just passed away, why don't you two hold the wedding within 100 days? It'll also serve to wash away the bad luck in the Marquise's mansion." According to custom, if an elder in the family passes away, the younger generation has to marry within 100 days, or else they must observe mourning for 3 years. No wonder she is so anxious. In my previous life, when Zhang Heng tortured me, she turned a blind eye and even fanned the flames. She looked down on me, always wanting to find a woman who could benefit the family, to be Zhang Heng's principal wife. But now, I'm afraid that even a 9th Jan rank petty official wouldn't be willing to marry his daughter to Zhang Heng. What makes her think I'd be willing to marry him? I lowered my head. I'm fine with anything. It is all up to grandmother's arrangement. I'm just afraid that Brother Aheng might not be willing. She patted my hand. Don't you worry, grandmother will make the decision for Hanger. You just wait to be the bride. In this life, I didn't stand in Zhang Heng's way, so he wasn't as disgusted with me. He even declared that marrying me was fine, but Yuju had to be a Kojan wife of equal standing. It seemed as if this was already a great favor to me after all. I was just an orphan girl raised by the Marquise's mansion. I went to take care of him every day, feeding him medicine spoonful by spoonful, and comforting him in a soft voice. Even if you can't inherit the title, rest assured, I will definitely stay by your side and never leave you. The way he looked at me was like he was looking at a dog. When this blows over, grandmother will go beg the emperor, and I will still inherit the title. Who are you putting on this act for? Stop cursing me. In my heart, you can't even compare to a single strand of Yuju's hair. The more he said that, the more I had to put on a subservient and humble appearance. Brother Aheng, It is okay even if I'm not in your heart. I can tolerate Yuju entering our household, and I will fulfill my duties as the main wife. I racked my brains to come up with excuses, saying every nice thing I could think of. But the more I spoke, the more impatient he became. I don't know which sentence completely infuriated him, but he suddenly raised his hand and knocked over the medicine bowl. Shu Wenjin, have you no shame? I silently cleaned up the broken porcelain shards without saying a word. He only loves the spontaneous and free flowers from the outside, not understanding that living under someone else's roof, I must be cautious and hide my true nature. So he detests my forbearing and uninteresting appearance. The more easily attainable something is, the more he wants to trample it into the mud. Conversely, a woman like Yuju pursued by thousands and never staying long for anyone. He enjoys competing with others for her, considering winning her favor his greatest glory. I tried hard to become even more annoying to him, even more so than in my past life. On the outside, Yuju clung to him even more desperately, coaxing him. Although her reputation was bigger, there is always a trade off. Now the entire capital knows about her ambiguous relationship with Zhang Heng. The left chancellor's son, who had originally said he would buy her freedom, has now gone back on his word. Others didn't dare to get involved with her either, for fear of getting a reputation for stealing someone's beloved. She would either end up in the brothel for life, or wait until everyone forgot about this mess for someone to buy her freedom. But by then, with her looks all faded, could she still live a good life? Therefore, she had no choice but to cling on to Zhang Heng. During this time, she gave up almost all of her regular clients, focusing solely on seducing him. She had no idea about Zhang Heng's background and thought he had inexhaustible wealth. He grew to loathe me day by day, and unable to resist her pestering, he gradually changed his attitude, willing only to marry Yuzu. He was hanging himself and banging his head against the wall, threatening that he must have Yuzu as his principal wife, or else he would die for the old matriarch to see, causing a huge ruckus. He'd been using the tactic of threatening death since he was a child. And there was never a time the old matriarch didn't give in to him, but he was just too clueless. Now was not the time to be making a scene during the mourning period. Too many people were coming and going to offer condolences. The slightest disturbance could not be hidden. The previous matter hadn't been completely suppressed yet, and now this caused another city-wide scandal. Because of him, the Marquise's mansion had completely become the laughingstock of the capital. The first time ever, the old matriarch did not immediately agree to Zhang Heng. She took out the 1,000 old wild ginseng she had been unwilling to use for decades, boiled and drank it to keep her spirits up, and forced herself to enter the palace to request an audience with the emperor. I was by her side serving her medicinal soup, but in reality, her illness was far from that serious. Bringing out this precious mountain ginseng had a bit of an act to it. Just like that, she dragged her aged and sick body to see His Majesty, her words sincere and earnest. She said Zhang Heng's words and actions were unruly, pleaded guilty for the Marquisate's failure in raising a son, not asking His Majesty to forgive him, but only begging His Majesty to take pity on her husband, who died on the battlefield. Her son had died from old battlefield injuries, and she herself had one foot in the grave. At least don't let the Marquisate's century of glory be lost in her hands. The emperor was moved and finally relented, decreeing that the Marquisate's eldest son born of a concubine, Jiang Jing, would inherit the title. This outcome was much better than I had expected. Actually, in our childhood, my relationship with Jiang Jing was better. His mother was originally the dowry maid of Zhang Heng's birth mother, but she gave birth to him first, so both Zhang Jing and his mother were resented. Later, his birth mother was murdered and passed away, and the Marquis only had eyes for Zhang Heng, the legitimate son, and did not dote on him. Zhang Jing had to be cautious and meticulous, trying his best to lower his presence. As for me, living under someone else's roof, that goes without saying. One time he had a high fever when the Marquis was not in the residence, and Zhang Heng forbade anyone from fetching a doctor for him. He was so sick he started talking nonsense, and as I passed by his courtyard gate, I heard him calling for his mom with a hoarse voice. That night, I quietly snuck into his courtyard and secretly slipped him a bowl of medicinal soup and a pack of osmanthus cakes. Actually, with my status, I shouldn't have been meddlesome. But I was young and had a bit of kindness back then. Plus, my situation was similar to Jiang Jing's, so I felt a sense of shared plight. Later, after he recovered, he thanked me in private. But on the surface, he still didn't interact with me much. He was afraid that getting too close to me would end up implicating me. After that, every year on my birthday, Jiang Jing would give me a small piece of jewelry. It wasn't valuable and didn't stand out among the various gifts, but it was much more thoughtful than those expensive objects. That was one of the few presentable things he could offer. I would put it on as soon as I received it, even though Zhang Heng would mock me for being shabby every time. In my past life, after Zhang Heng inherited the title, he did everything to suppress Zhang Jing. Zhang Jing had no choice but to leave the Zhang family and join the army. Before he left, Zhang Jing came to secretly bid me farewell at night, asking what my plans were and if I was really going to marry Zhang Heng. But that wasn't my plan, I just had no other choice. Zhang Jing earnestly advised me that Zhang Heng was not a good match. I said, "How could I not know? I have no choice. Just like you have no other path besides leaving the Zhang family." I saw a look of struggle on Zhang Jing's face. A moment later, he reached out his hand to me and asked, "Do you want to come with me?" This question had nothing to do with romance. He just wanted to help me. But I shook my head. Zhang Heng had become a marquis and held an important position in the court. If I left with him, neither of us would have a future to speak of. Zhang Jing left the Zhang family alone. At first, he often wrote to me, asking if I was well. I was afraid of making him worry, so I always reported the good and hid the bad, never telling him what Zhang Heng had done. 2 years after he left home, the news of Zhang Jing's death came from the border. In this life, his fate was different, along with it. On the day the imperial edict came down, Zhang Heng was raging in the mansion. "On what grounds does that, Zhang Jing? He is just a bastard born from my mother's dowry maid climbing into bed. Is he worthy? His mother was my mother's servant, so he should be my slave too." I was just down on my luck for a moment, and this kind of scoundrel took the opportunity to rise up. Grandmother actually agreed to it. Zhang Heng caused a scene at her door. I pretended to block him a couple of times, then let him in. "Grandmother, grandmother, did you say that after the storm passes, you would go and beg the emperor, and the title would still be mine? How could you let that bastard Zhang Jing inherit the title?" The old lady closed her eyes. "From now on, I don't care what you do. This mansion is now run by the new marquis. If you have any dissatisfaction, go find him for everything." He was stunned for a moment, and asked in disbelief, "Grandmother, you won't take care of me anymore? I now have no fame, no official position, and even lost my title. If you don't take care of me, what am I supposed to do?" The old lady was so angry she coughed repeatedly. "It is because I've indulged you too much that you think someone will always cover for you, no matter how much trouble you cause. Get out." Because of the trouble Zhang Heng caused, everyone in the clan strongly advocated for removing his name from the family records and expelling him from the Marquise's mansion, lest he do something outrageous again in the future and implicate the mansion. It was the old madam who stopped them, single-handedly protecting him so he could continue to be a wealthy idler in the Marquise's mansion. It would have been one thing if he wasn't grateful, but to disregard her illness and cause a scene in front of her, no wonder she was heartbroken. Zhang Heng had never seen her so furious before. He flinched in fear and ultimately left. I followed him out and pulled his sleeve. "Brother Aheng." He flung my hand away. "Get lost." I didn't give up and grabbed him again, acting like a complete pest. "Brother Aheng, I know you're upset, but one can't end up with nothing. The title is definitely gone now. You absolutely must bring Sister Yuju into the mansion. I also really want to see what kind of woman has captured Brother Aheng's heart so completely." His eyes tensed. My words struck a chord with him. One can't end up with nothing. If he lost the title and still couldn't get the beauty, how could he be content? Zhang Heng started making a scene again. The old madam claimed illness and refused to come out, leaving everything completely in Zhang Jing's hands. In the past, she had never shown any affection for Zhang Jing, this illegitimate eldest son. Every time Zhang Heng caused trouble for him, she would turn a blind eye. And when things got out of hand, she would blatantly favor Zhang Heng. She wasn't sick to the point of having to let go. It is just that she saw the situation was really out of control. So she chose to withdraw from the world and not come out. Zhang Jing didn't express his stance, but instead came to find me first. Wen Yun, you're head over heels for Zhang Heng, and father arranged your marriage before he died. Everyone knows this, so for the matter he is requesting, I have to ask you first. In all these years in the Marquise's mansion, no one has ever respected my thoughts. He was the only one, Marquise, please speak. He waved his hand. We're family. Why call me Marquis? Just call me Big Brother like you used to. About the marriage engagement, what are your thoughts? In my past life, I hadn't seen him for 3 years. After my rebirth, he was mostly in the front hall presiding over the condolences and receiving guests, so I saw him even less. Looking at his face at this moment, I felt a sense of unfamiliarity and even a groundless feeling as if a lifetime had passed. But then I thought, it is a good thing it is him. Seeing my prolonged silence, he spoke again. You've been a person of few words since you were a child, never complaining when things happen, but I know you're not without your own thoughts. You just don't want to make things difficult for others. He understood me far better than Zhang Heng, but since I'm the one in charge of the Marquise's mansion now, you can tell me whatever thoughts you have. I don't want to interfere with your choice, but I still want to advise you of one thing. Zhang Heng is not a good man. The exact same words as in my past life. His words were sincere, and his gaze upon me was filled with worry. Big Brother, allow me to ask a question. I paused for a moment and slowly spoke. If I said I'm unwilling to marry Zhang Heng, would you really disregard the honor of the Marquise's manor and let Yu Ju enter the manor? He brought the tea to his lips, perfectly concealing his expression, leaving me no way to probe. What face does the Marquise's mansion have left these days? If you're dead set on marrying, I won't disregard your wishes. But personally, I still hope that Zhang Heng and Yu Zhu can finally be together as a couple. He wasn't looking out for Zhang Heng. On the contrary, he wanted to completely cut off Zhang Heng's path of retreat. Once he marries a woman of lowly status as his principal wife, even if the emperor has a change of heart later, there is absolutely no way he could ever serve as an official at court, let alone inherit his noble title. But I didn't want to get married in the first place, so I don't mind doing him this favor. It is true that he plotted against Zhang Heng, and it is also true that he did it for my own good. I nodded. Then I also hope that all lovers will eventually be united, he said with a bit of apology. Wen Yun, rest assured, I won't treat you unfairly. I'll have your name added to the Marquise's family registry, and in the future you'll be married out as the eldest young lady of the Marquise's residence. Your dowry will also be entirely according to the standards for a daughter of the Marquise's residence. And on top of that, I'll give you double. From now on, if you have any thoughts, you can always tell me. If you want to get married, I'll find a match for you. Find you a good husband. If you don't, you can just stay in the residence, and I sized up his expression. No reward without merit. Isn't this too much? Not much. The first consideration, I'll be honest with you. Everyone knows your parents were the old Marquise's lifesavers. Now that the marriage is off, we have to give you an explanation. Otherwise, if word gets out in the future, people will inevitably gossip about the Marquise's residence being heartless and ungrateful, mistreating their benefactor. The Marquis residence's reputation is already like this. It can't afford to fall any further. Besides, he paused for a moment and put down his teacup. If it weren't for you back then, I'm afraid I would have died in the residence long ago. The debt of saving my life can't be repaid with money alone. After thinking it over and over, the only thing I can do is find you a good husband to entrust your life to safely. Only then can it be considered treating you well. I looked at him. His gaze was much more sincere than before. I thought for a moment and chose my words carefully as I spoke. Entrusting one's life to others will never be stable no matter what. Big brother, if you truly want what is best for me, you might as well give me freedom. Give me the confidence to not have to depend on others. He fell silent, as if in thought. I stood up to leave. Big brother, it is getting late. I'll be heading back now. He didn't ask me to stay. Only when I was about to step over the threshold did he speak solemnly from behind me. Wen Yun, all these years, in my heart, I have always considered you my own sister. Whatever you want, I will definitely give it to you. Jiang Jing not only approved the marriage of Jiang Heng and Yu Zhu, he even allocated silver to buy Yu Zhu's freedom. Jiang Heng wondered suspiciously in private. That bastard Jiang Jing has such a kind heart? I just went along with him. No matter what, you're the legitimate son of this marquise's mansion. Even if the marquise inherits the title, he is still scared of you and respects you. He totally agreed. I think so too. A bastard is a bastard, even if he inherits the title. His claim isn't legitimate. Deep down he knows he is not worthy. He knows to go along with me, so I guess he has some sense. As he spoke, he changed the subject. By the way, I heard Jiang Jing gave you a few shops. Jiang Jing gave me 1 jewelry shop and 2 pawn shops. They're all businesses that are easy to manage and make good money. He took my words to heart. This is the confidence that comes from not having to depend on others. When he had his attendant bring me the shop deeds, he sent a message saying it is not much, just for me to get started and learn the ropes. Once I really got the hang of it, he said again, that now the inner court has no one to manage it. And seeing that I managed the shops well, he wanted me to help him manage the inner court. The Marquise's mansion doesn't lack female relatives who can manage accounts. But after all these years of being bullied and humiliated in the mansion, he hates those people, doesn't trust them, and doesn't have any capable confidants of his own. Compared to those people, he was willing, on account of me saving him when we were young, to trust me a little. Now I'm the one managing the inner court, but Jiang Heng is out every day looking for Yu Zhu, whining and dining, completely unaware. When he runs out of money and comes back to ask for more, he'll find out. Of course I couldn't tell him the truth. I found an excuse to brush him off. It is just for show. At first he pestered me for a few days, wanting to know what I had, probably wanting to get it for himself. But after only a few days, he was so entangled by Yu Zhu that he was stretched too thin, and with his wedding imminent, he gradually had no time to pay attention to me. 2 months after the Marquise passed away, he got his wish and brought Yu Zhu into the manor. After all, it was still the mourning period, so the wedding was simple. Despite this, on his wedding day, he was still all smiles. I secretly peeked at Yu Zhu's expression under her veil. She didn't seem happy. The old matriarch propped up her sick body to accept a bowl of tea from her. Her body twisted like a water snake, her whole person reeking of affectation and unwillingness, utterly unpresentable. But no matter what, this pair of illicit lovers had gotten what they wished for. On the second day of the marriage, Yu Zhu was already whining that the wedding was too shabby, and she didn't like it, demanding that Jiang Heng compensate her, dragging him out to buy jewelry, and she didn't even go to pay her respects to the old matriarch. That very night, the manager of the jewelry shop came to me to report the accounts. "Miss, this is this month's account book. Also, one more thing. Second, young master brought second young mistress over today." The madam picked out the most expensive set of filigree headpieces with clustered gemstones, and also took some miscellaneous items like pearl strings, armlets, jade pendants, and hairpins. The total came to over 900 taels of silver. The second young master and second young mistress are Jiang Heng and Yu Zhu. I flipped through it. There was no record of this transaction in the account book. On credit? The steward wrung his hands. Traditionally speaking, we are after all the Marquise's estate's business. So when our own masters pick something, of course we don't take money. It is just treated as a tribute to the superiors. And this isn't the second young master's first time. It is just that now. He left the second half of his sentence unsaid. It is just that now Jiang Heng is not the same as before. So should this be put on credit or not? He secretly watched my expression, waiting for me to make a decision. I tossed the account book back. Let's not even mention that I'm managing the household now, even if I weren't. Big Brother gave that shop to me, so it is my private property, not the Marquise's estate's business anymore. Didn't Big Brother tell you? He hurriedly caught it. He did. The Marquis told me everything. In that case, if the second young master and second young mistress come again, he can pick whatever he wants. Let him, as long as he can pay for it. As for the 900 taels he put on credit today, go and collect the debt tomorrow. If he kicks up a fuss, just tell him the shop's been sold and has a new owner. And no credit is allowed whatsoever. If he can't produce the money, report him to the officials. The next day, before I was even fully awake, the estate was already in a chaotic uproar. Since when do I have to pay for picking a set of jewelry in my own family's shop? Don't you know who you depend on for a living? The shop was sold to whom get Zhang here. I want to ask him what right he has to sell the Marquise's estate's property. By the time I got myself ready and went over, I saw Jiang Heng in the front hall, stamping his feet and cursing without any semblance of decorum. So a person's situation can really affect them to this extent. In his past life he was at least presentable, but now there is not a trace of his former self to be seen. He kept cursing and shouting for Zhang Jing to come out, and even hit the manager of the jewelry shop. I walked in the door. Brother Aheng, please calm down. Big Brother has been assigned a task by the court. How could he be at the estate right now? If there is anything, you can tell me just the same. He looked me up and down. Tell you. Who the hell do you think you are? Don't think that just because you got a few storefronts from Jiangjing, you can be the master of the Marquise's residence. I sat down in the main seat. In the past, this seat had nothing to do with me, but now I'm not the one living at someone else's mercy. Grandmother is bedridden with illness, and Big Brother hasn't married, so there is no one in the estate to manage the household affairs. After thinking it over, he thought I was suitable, so he asked me to manage things for the time being. When it comes to matters of money, if you don't talk to me, who will you talk to? He was extremely agitated and flicked his sleeve. Then give him 900 taels of silver. Quickly. I was calm and composed. No. It seemed like he didn't react for a moment, looking at me in disbelief, and only spoke after a long while. What did you say? I didn't answer, but asked instead. Brother Aheng, the money to buy Sister Yuju's freedom was paid by the estate. Do you know how much it cost? He opened his mouth as if to say something, but in the end said nothing. 2,300 taels of fine silver. 2,300 taels. Jiang Heng's eyes widened. When I met her, her buyout price was only 800 taels. Who are you kidding? For 2,300 taels, you could even buy out the top courtesan of Zuishang Pavilion. How is she worth such a high price? Yuju's expression was absolutely awful. The more her price was brought up, the more it reminded everyone that she was from the lowly registry of a brothel, that she had been bought. Especially since Jiang Heng's every word was saying she wasn't worthy. I looked at Jiang Heng with a grin. Isn't it this whole scholar and beauty story that raised Sister Yuzu's price? A person fancied by you, the young Marquise Jiang, could her price possibly be low? He choked. If the manor doesn't give you this money, could you come up with it on your own? Not to mention having to manage the old Marquise's funeral rites and prepare for your wedding. All these expenses combined have already emptied out the Marquise's manor. If we don't sell off some assets for all the people in this manor, high and low, I'm afraid even putting food on the table will be a problem. Jiang Heng was so angry his cheek twitched. He pointed at my nose and cursed. Isn't it your incompetence that the Marquise's manor has no money? How was there money when father was around? Did Jiang Jing embezzle the money, or did you? You'd better be more respectful to me. Otherwise, be careful, you can't even get your allowance. His face went pale and then livid, but he held back and didn't dare to lash out, his chest heaving violently. Although the Marquise's estate has many assets, With masters above who take things for free and cunning servants below who line their own pockets, it has long been gilded on the outside but rotten on the inside. There are basically no silver savings left at all. Regarding this point, when I first started managing the household, I tallied the accounts and had grandmother and eldest brother look them over. They are both perfectly clear on this. If you don't believe me, go ask grandmother. Do you think she would lie to you? He fell completely silent. All the allowance you usually draw from the estate is recorded. So by my calculations, your own little private stash should have quite a bit of money. You can't even come up with 900 taels. You're the legitimate son of the Marquise's estate. After all, hurry up and pay off your credit debt, and don't let them actually go report you to the officials. You may not care about your face, but the Marquise's estate still does. His expression turned awkward, and I turned to look at Yuju. Sister Yuju, you also need to be considerate of your husband. If he can't produce it, you just return the jewelry, and that is that. In any case, we can't have people saying our Marquise's mansion strongs and arms people and takes things for free. Am I right? No matter how you all carry on, if you want the head ornaments, I can't produce them. After she finished speaking, she rolled her eyes, slouched in her chair, and started acting difficult. After picking her nails, she smoothed the hair at her temples, and after smoothing her hair, she smoothed the creases in her clothes. She was very busy. Anyway, she just wouldn't look me straight in the eye. The steward turned and walked out. Since it has come to this, I'm off to report it to the authorities. Zhang Heng looked at me, still expecting me to stop him. I waved my hand at the steward. Go report it. The Marquise's mansion can't produce the money to cover his debts, so this is the only way. Hurry and go while there are fewer people reporting to the authorities this early in the morning. When you get to the government office, remember to only report Zhang Heng. Have him thrown in jail for 2 days to teach him a lesson. Seeing that they were serious, Zhang Heng panicked and grabbed Yuju. I'll buy you better things in the future. For now, you return it first. Yuju lifted her eyelids. When your Marquise's mansion carried me through the door to be the young mistress, wasn't it so I could enjoy a life of comfort? I've never heard of someone having to return a given gift. Can't even come up with 900 taels of silver. You really are a useless piece of trash. Zhang Heng's eyes widened in disbelief. In the past, when he spent money like water, Yuju was always charming, lovely, gentle, and considerate. How come after getting married as she wished, she became so sharp and tongued and harsh? Zhang Heng fiercely slammed down the teacup, his face ferocious. I'm useless. If it weren't for me, you'd still have the lowly status of a brothel worker, being a whore for your entire life. I let you shed your lowly status to become the official wife of the Marquise's mansion. And I'm useless? Yuju let out a cold laugh. Calling you useless is putting it lightly. When I was at the Jin Chun brothel, no matter how precious the jewelry, it passed through my hands like flowing water. You bought my freedom, but you can't even produce 900 taels. From the time I was first presented at 16 until now. I've never been this shabby. What is wrong with being a whore? It is much better than being your official wife in name only. Zhang Heng had never been humiliated like this, let alone be cursed at with a finger pointed at his nose by a brothel woman. Fei, he slapped Yuju across the face. If it weren't for you, would I have ended up in this mess? And now you're getting an attitude with me. Who was the one clinging to me back then, saying they couldn't live without me, that they'd marry no one but me? Yuju, having made a name for herself in a place like a brothel, was never one to be easily bullied. If Zhang Heng dared to hit her, she dared to hit back. Her spring dan onion dan like fingers, could not only play the pipa, but were also truly vicious when scratching people, leaving several marks on Zhang Heng's face. The steward took the opportunity while they were fighting to slip away and report to the officials. I clapped my hands, got up, and went back to my room. To think they'd start infighting like this with just a little provocation. And when I think about my miserable death in my past life, it feels even less worth it. Zhang Heng was arrested and taken away. Although he was the legitimate son of the Marquise's manor, the manor had now fallen into decline, and he was a commoner without rank. So when the authorities came to arrest him, they didn't show him any face at all. Even at this point, Yuju still didn't take out the jewelry and declared, "I refuse to believe that for a man of his status, the authorities can lock him up for life, or even cut off his head." His status, no status whatsoever now. This matter alarmed the old matriarch, and the old matriarch summoned me for questioning. "When Yun, the Marquise, trusted you, that is why he let you manage the household. You've caused this kind of trouble. Do you not want face for the Marquise's manor anymore?" I tremblingly lowered my head. "Grandmother, don't be angry. It is not that I'm unwilling to help. It is just that there is really no money in the residence. You've seen the accounts yourself. Now brother-He has been taken away. What are we to do?" "You're the housekeeper. You tell me what should be done. I'll take some people to Sister Yuju's room, search for all the jewelry, and just return it." You're muddled and headed. She raised her cane and hit my back. "The Grand Marquise's manor can't even pay for some jewelry worth a mere 900 taels of silver and has to return it. If people found out, they'd laugh themselves to death." She, the old Marquis, and the Zhang from my previous life all held this kind of mentality, which is why they ran the Marquise's manor into further and further ruin. But there is no money in the manor. "Grandmother, what do you think we should do?" she sighed. "I'll just take it out from my private coffers for Hanger." I took the silver and went to the government office to bail Jiang out. His mouth didn't stop the entire way, chattering on and on. "You have no idea. That bunch of soldiers are snobs who look down on people. The way they berated and humiliated me. Didn't you say the manor has no money? Where did you raise the silver?" Yuju refused to return the jewelry to save me. I answered him in detail. Sister Yuju was naturally unwilling to return it, but you can't blame her. With such a fine set of head ornaments, no one would want to let it go after getting their hands on it. As for the silver, grandmother took it out of her private coffers. Remember to go pay your respects to grandmother when you get back. After hearing this, he spat. If I'd known back then, why did I have to fight tooth and nail to marry her? When I get back, I'm divorcing her with a letter of divorce. And grandma too, since she had the money. Why didn't she just give it to me this morning to bail me out? She had to wait until she saw me being taken away by the officials before she'd take it out. She used to dote on me the most. How did she become like this now? As soon as Zhang Heng returned to the residence, he started a huge row with Yuju. Yuju was cursing and muttering, and as she went on, she let the whole story slip. You think I was so willing to enter your home? Young Master Chen of the left Prime Minister's family was going to take me as his mistress. If it wasn't for this mess with you that got me tied to you, would I have missed out on the immense fortune of the Prime Minister's mansion? Has it come to this that I'm now following you, treating a head ornament set worth 900 taels of silver like it is a treasure? She probably saw that the Marquise's household had no family fortune to speak of, so she didn't pester and cling shamelessly. Instead, she took the initiative to ask Zhang Heng for a letter of divorce. He whipped her a few times in his anger, shoved a divorce letter at her, and pushed her out the door, not even letting her take away that set of head ornaments. As it turned out, the moment Yuju stepped out of the Marquise's mansion, she went back to Jin Chunlu on her own initiative. Jin Chunlu put her plaque out that very same day. She and Zhang Heng staged such a grand scholar and beauty drama, managed to get her freedom bought and married into the Marquise's mansion with great difficulty, only to go back to her old profession in just 3 days. Her current identity is no longer that of an ordinary top courtesan. She is the young madam of the Marquise's mansion returning to the pleasure quarters. That is considered a legend in the entire capital city. Who wouldn't want to get intimate with her? That night, she was sold for the sky's and high price of 3,000 taels. When the news reached Zhang Heng's ears, he was so angry he grabbed his sword and went on a killing spree to Jinchen brothel. Even though he was no good in 1,000 ways, he was at least from a family of military officials, and he was very good with a sword. He killed Yuju's client on the spot. It is said that at the time the client was still on top of her when his throat was slit, and the blood splattered all over her face. The people in Jinchen brothel were so scared they scattered and fled, But the madam, being someone who had seen a thing or two, quickly calmed down and called for people to restrain him. That client was not of ordinary status. I did some asking around. That was the son of the left prime minister, the person who was originally going to buy Yuju's freedom and make her his mistress. In his past life, he bought Yuju's freedom, was framed along with his entire family by Jiang Heng, sentenced to exile, and died on the way there. Unexpectedly, in this life, he took a different path, yet still died at the hands of his old enemy. Jiang Heng had just gotten out of the yamen during the day, and by night, he was back in again. And this time, he most likely won't be coming out in one piece. If the old matriarch's original illness had some element of faking, this time she was truly sick with anger, paralyzed in bed without even the strength to get up. She called everyone in the entire marquise's residence to her room, screaming hoarsely, "All of you, figure out a way to get Hanger out." Hanger was raised pampered and spoiled since he was a child. How can he endure the hardships of prison? Everyone knelt on the ground looking at each other in dismay. In the whole big family of the marquise's mansion, you can count the ones who are actually useful on one hand. The rest are all parasites freeloading off the mansion's prestige, completely useless. She obviously understood this too, and in the end her gaze still landed on Jiang Jing. You can't not save your own brother. Although Jiang Jing was kneeling, his back was ramrod straight. Grandmother, please calm your anger, but I'm afraid that saving this good Jan for Zan nothing brother is what will truly plunge the marquise's mansion into a point of no return. Please, grandmother, reconsider. The old madam was stunned for a long while, tears streaming from her cloudy eyes. It is not that she didn't understand, but Jiang Heng was her own grandson, whom she doted on as he grew up, the apple of her eye. That is why she always cleaned up his messes. Even though he had caused such a huge disaster, she couldn't bear to abandon him. But now, if they were to insist on protecting him, let's not even talk about whether they could succeed in the very act itself, would offend the Prime Minister's residence. Instead, the Marquise's mansion's path in the imperial court would only become more difficult, and I'm afraid they'd be even less able to secure their future. She wasn't just Jiang Heng's grandmother. She was, more importantly, the old madam of the Marquise's mansion. After a long time, she closed her eyes unwillingly. I'll leave it to you. Jiang Jing took charge, invited the clan elders to bear witness, struck Jiang Heng's name from the family genealogy, and expelled him from the clan. At the crack of dawn, Jiang Jing went to the Prime Minister's residence on behalf of the Marquise's mansion to plead for forgiveness, stating that Jiang Heng was at their disposal and the Marquise's mansion would absolutely not interfere. Although this wasn't enough to pacify the anger of the Prime Minister's residence, at least it wouldn't make things worse. And I went to the condemned cells to visit Jiang Heng. The condemned cells were dark and damp, and occasionally you could hear the squeaking of rats. He was curled up in a corner of the cell, his body covered in wounds. It seemed people from the Prime Minister's residence had sent their regards, giving him a good welcome in jail first. I called out to him through the wooden bars, "Brother Aheng." He was sleeping restlessly and opened his eyes at the slightest disturbance. Seeing it was me, his eyes lit up, and he scrambled over, grabbing the bars with both hands, his face filled with hope. Wenjin, I get out now. Get me out of here, quickly, and teach those blind fools a good lesson for daring to hit even me. I looked at him, smiling. Brother Aheng, it was grandmother who spoiled you too much, keeping you in the residence, that made you think you were still a master of the Marquise's residence, that you could still call the shots. Have you forgotten that you now have no official position, no scholarly honor? He was stunned for a moment, as if he suddenly understood something. What happened to Sister Yuju? It is understandable for you to be angry. But before acting so impulsively, you should have thought about it and someone who can afford 3,000 taels of silver fei for one night. What kind of ordinary person could that be? His face suddenly turned ashen. Brother Aheng, you killed the left Prime Minister's only son. His lips moved, but for a long moment he couldn't speak. The light in his eyes suddenly vanished, and the flesh on his entire face was trembling. I turned to leave, and he suddenly shouted out, his voice trembling so much it became distorted. Wen Yun, you have to save me. Let Grandma save me. Let Zhang Jing save me. I can't die, Wen Yun. No matter how he shouted, I never looked back again. When I returned, I happened to run into Zhang Jing coming back to the manor, his face full of fatigue. The Prime Minister's residents won't let this go easily. They must be hard to deal with, right? He rubbed the space between his eyebrows. It is what should be done. To lose a child in old age, no amount of compensation from us can make up for it. I knew Jiang Heng was audacious and reckless, but I never thought he'd dare to kill someone in a busy market. If I had known earlier, I should have kept him under close watch to prevent him from causing this catastrophic disaster. How can there be so many if only I had known? Don't blame yourself too much. He wiped his face, opened his eyes, seemingly looking at a tree in the courtyard, yet also seemingly looking through it towards a faraway place, his gaze hazy and inscrutable. It is less that I'm blaming myself, and more that I'm a bit selfish. Now that I've inherited the marquisate, the honor and disgrace of the house are my own. But if I could do it over, maybe I would still let him act so wantonly, and watching him bring about his own destruction like that. I actually felt a certain pleasure. Wen Yun, am I wrong to think this way? I didn't tell him that I had the same idea. I concealed those ulterior thoughts and just patted his shoulder. Lately, there have been too many mishaps in the manor. Our reputation has hit rock bottom, and we've made an enemy of the Prime Minister's manor. But from now on, no one can drag the Marquise's manor into the mud like this again. You're still young. You have a long road ahead of you, and no one knows what the Marquise's manor will become in your hands. As long as you make something of yourself, people will soon forget about these things. He stared at me for a long time and nodded heavily. Shisi, the left Prime Minister's only son, was killed, shocking the entire court and reaching the emperor's ears. To appease the people, the emperor personally wrote the edict, sentencing Jiang Heng to immediate execution. On the day of the execution, the old matriarch vomited blood in the manor and fell into a coma. A physician was summoned to examine her. He said that at her age, she should have been recuperating well, but now her heart is full of grief and stagnation. If her heart's ailment isn't cured, her body will never recover. With the fire in her heart weakening and her liver qi stagnant, he is afraid she only has a few years left. To appease the anger of the Prime Minister's manor, Jiang Jing was overwhelmed with work and couldn't tend to matters in the manor at all. It was always me who served the old matriarch her medicine by her side. When she slowly regained consciousness, I helped her sit up and fed her medicine, one spoonful at a time. Grandmother, get well soon. The Marquise's manor is still waiting for you to take charge. Although she understood the reasoning, she was still resentful of Jiang Jing's ruthlessness. She also knew that he would never truly be close to or respect her, so she snorted coldly. What is the use of these old bones of mine? I think he is doing just fine. He is decisive and has his own ideas. I gently stroked her back. How could you say that, grandmother? Big brother wouldn't dare to make the decision himself. But he did get your approval. Otherwise, even if you gave him 10,000 guts, he wouldn't dare push brother Aheng onto the execution ground, would he? When she heard the words, execution ground, her breathing became heavy again. Now the Marquise's mansion has cast out brother Aheng. It is pitiful that with his head separated from his body, no one even dares to collect his corpse. He couldn't die in peace. When the executioner's blade came down, his head went rolling and tumbling into the crowd. I heard the last thing he shouted before he died was, "Grandmother, save me." She started coughing violently, one fit after another. In the end, it was people from the Prime Minister's mansion who collected his corpse. His head was offered as a sacrifice before young Master Chen's grave, and his body was fed to wild dogs. She couldn't listen anymore. She choked on her breath again and couldn't speak. While coughing violently, she pounded on me forcefully, her eyes wide, her cloudy eyeballs bulging. All of a sudden, she breathed her last. It is true that the Prime Minister's mansion collected the corpse, but in fact, Zhang Heng didn't shout any grandmother. Save me. It is said that before he was beheaded, the Prime Minister's mansion instructed the jailers to torture him severely, driving him mad with fear. Before the execution, he kept shouting mad ravings from his mouth. I should be the Marquise. What the hell is his Prime Minister's mansion? Their whole family should be beheaded and exiled. I should be the Marquis. It is just that all this nonsense, in the end, scattered to the winds as the guillotine blade fell. The old matriarch passed away, and the marquisate held 2 funerals in a row. If you count Zhang Heng, who had already been kicked out, that is 3 people who passed away in a row. Not a single one from the 3 generations of grandfather, father, son was left. Everyone in the capital was astonished, saying this marquisate must have provoked some unclean thing to have such great misfortune. Jiang Jing mourned for a solid 3 years, and after those 3 years, a marriage was arranged for him. The other party, Ava Corporation, was the illegitimate daughter of a minor family. Although their social standings didn't match, the Lin family had an upright reputation, and the daughter they raised was also well-read and sensible. They didn't mind that the Marquise's household was in decline, only valued Jiang Jing's character and future prospects, and married their daughter to him. The second day after Ava Corporation married into the family, I returned the housekeeper's token. Jiang Jing didn't accept it. I've discussed it with my wife. As long as you don't get married, I'll let you keep managing things. She doesn't want to fight with you. I shook my head. For the past 3 years, my managing the household for you was to repay your genuine kindness to me. Now that you've taken a wife, she is the lady of the Marquise's mansion. It has been 3 years. You should let me rest. Besides the initial 3 shops, in the past 3 years, he successively gave me some manors, fields, and shops. Now, all the private property in my hands added up can bring in at least 40 to 50,000 taels of silver a year. Some shops that originally had average business, after they started to pick up in my hands, he didn't ask for them back, treating me with utmost benevolence and righteousness. I stuffed the housekeeper token into his hand. He thought for a moment, and in the end, accepted it after all. Back then, you said, you wanted freedom, and the confidence to not have to live at the mercy of others. I gave you that confidence, but I forgot that if you were in the Marquise's mansion, you would have no freedom at all. I moved out of the Marquise's mansion, bought my own house outside, and focused on managing the business I had on hand. My business grew bigger and bigger, and his official career also became smoother and smoother. Whenever I had occasional setbacks in my business, he could mostly step in to help me handle them. When he sometimes needed to circulate funds, I could also provide them. Later, he had children and lived a happy life, but I never married. The doom of my tragic death had unknowingly become a very, very past. For a very long time, I didn't think about those entangled people and matters from my past life again. Until one winter day when the snow flew heavily, I saw Yuju once again. Her clothes were plain and thin, her figure frail, and she wore a headscarf, blending in with the common folk to leave the city. The way she glanced around was just like a rat in a gutter. You couldn't see a single trace of the top courtesan, who once captivated the capital. She had clearly changed her appearance, but strange as it sounds, I recognized her face at a single glance. Back when the left chancellor's only son died, she couldn't escape the retaliation either. The left chancellor said she was a jinx, that without her, all that trouble wouldn't have been stirred up. The chancellor's mansion was overwhelmingly powerful. The Jinchen house couldn't afford to offend them. So they tied her up and sent her to the chancellor's mansion, only begging not to be implicated by her. The prime minister's estate took her in, and since then, I never heard any news of her again. Now it seems she used some unknown means to escape and was trying to sneak out of the city. I instructed my servant, "Stop her. Someone will come for her in a bit." She was stopped by my men at the city gate and couldn't escape no matter what. Before long, servants from the prime minister's estate caught up, twisting her arm, and were about to drag her back. I don't know how a weak woman like her mustered such strength, breaking free from the servant's hold with a crying roar. I'd rather smash my head and die here today than be tortured by you day after day. The moment she finished speaking, she rushed towards the city wall and slammed her head against it. Fresh blood stained the snowy ground. She fell amidst the swirling snowstorm, and gradually fell silent. I suddenly remembered when I died in the snow. How similar it was, as if this moment was overlapping with that one, feeling like only yesterday, like an intertwining of fate between my past life and this one. After staring at her fixedly for a long time, I turned around. The new year is coming, and I still have to collect debts from the shops. I don't have time to watch the commotion. Let's go.